It's a beautiful day in our city. It's a great opportunity to talk about things that are important to Texans. It's important to talk about things that involve everything that we do, especially in wide open places like Abilene and West Texas. And so on behalf of all of our citizens, would you join me in giving a great welcome to a man who's leading our state? Would you give a great hand for Governor Rick Perry?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. It's an honor to be back home, and the big country is looking good. We could use rain, I know that. That's kind of the story of our life out here, but I want to thank all of y'all for coming out as we discuss an issue that's really important to the people of this state and across the big country, certainly. It's the ownership of land. Being a boy who grew up on private property out in Paint Creek, Texas, it has a special lure. It has a special place in my heart, and it's part of the American dream to own your own piece of property, whether it's a home in a small business, or whether it's a family, a little family business somewhere, whether it's a big old spread of rolling high plains country, or Texans just have this special connection to the land. And I think we all were taught it from an early point in time that, you know, passing it down from generation to generation. This isn't yours. You're just kind of using it to take care of it till the next generation comes along. And it's where we build our lives. It's where we raise our families. It's where we grow our businesses. I'm going to introduce Todd here in a minute, but having been the agriculture commissioner and working with the men and women of that industry and profession especially, they really get it about how important private property ownership is. And unfortunately, there have been some misguided legal opinions over the course of the last decade in particular that kind of put us on edge, and it gave government entities the right to practice eminent domain in ways that I think our founding fathers never meant for it to be, and in ways they'd never done it before, actually. And landowners' faith in their future was kind of cast in doubt, if you will. And agencies of various levels of government were suddenly authorized to seize people's lands and give it to other private entities, you know, all in the name of economic development. And man, we're all for economic development, but we're about doing it in the right way, an appropriate way, and Texas way. Government agencies were also given free rein to abuse the system by presenting landowners lowball offers, if you will. I mean, sometimes laughable lowball offers, and then coming back in and using eminent domain when the original landowners justifiably said no to that lowball offer. Now, over the last couple legislative sessions, we've taken some important steps to rebuild the protections that Texans once rightfully depended on. For instance, we barred the practice of using an eminent domain to seize property to give to other private interests. And we passed measures requiring a 2/3 vote of the legislature to grant any further eminent domain authority, made it more difficult to seize well-tended parcels of property just because they happen to be in what's referred to as a blighted area. And so Todd and I are here today just to reiterate the need to provide Texas private landowners with additional protections from eminent domain abuses, and it's one of the reasons I put it on an emergency call a couple of months ago, because we want to make sure it didn't get stuck behind a bunch of legislation and end up not passing for whatever reason. So we got it out and got it out front, got it moving down the road, if you will, and legislature obviously values this important aspect of Texas because they've been busy working on it. And Senator Craig Estes back up north of here, he lives in Wichita Falls, and Robert Duncan, Lubbock, Senator Duncan, and Charlie Guerin over in Fort Worth. He's the House member that's carrying it. They've done some really good work, and that's not to say that there aren't some private sector folks that have really been engaged in this, and some of you in this audience, and different organizations from across the state. So the sum of all those efforts is in Senate Bill 18, which is Senator Estes' bill, and it just covers a wide range of protections that need to be in the Texas statutes as soon as possible. Protections such as requiring a government entity to make a legitimate bona fide offer at the beginning of the process, giving the landowners the chance to negotiate a fair price before eminent domain is exercised, basically doing away with that old lowballing exercise that we saw too many times. Another protection that's going to be put in place is requiring condemnation petitions for them to state specifically the public use for which that land is going to be used, the intended use of that land. And so you're eliminating any of the vagueness that can come from, so, well, we got a use of this land and we need it, and that's not going to happen anymore. So protections also that include giving landowners the right to buy back their land when it's not used. Say it's taken by eminent domain, then it doesn't get used, a landowner has first right of refusal to buy that piece of property back at the price they were paid for it, not the inflated price, because the profit of that inflation, if you will, belongs with the landowners, not government. So Senate Bill 18 also increases the accountability and the transparency throughout the process, making sure government officials are on the record when they decide to use eminent domain, whether it's the city or the county or the state for that matter. The officials that are making that decision are going to go on the record with a public vote. And also I want to say thanks to the officials at all levels. And again, this is county commissioners and judges that have been engaged in the process, and all the private organizations and individuals, and just a lot of folks across this state who have helped raise awareness of this problem as it's kind of raised its old ugly head over the course of the last decade in particular, and worked in ways to protect what I consider to be one of our most precious rights in this country, and certainly in Texas, and that's our right of private property ownership. And it's with all of your help that we can assure every Texas landowner that the power of eminent domain will only be used for compelling public reasons, never used lightly, and never used to pick winners and losers in the private sector. So with that on our minds, and speaking of being a champion for private property owners in this state, there's not anybody over the course of his tenure as a Texas state senator where he really carried the water, so to speak, for us, and now as the ag commissioner, a fellow who I'm really proud to get to consider not only my friend and neighbor and my protege, if you will, but just a great Texan, and that's our ag commissioner, Todd Staples. Todd.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be with you in Abilene today. Governor Perry, thank you very much for that. Mayor, it's good to be back with you. And few issues have brought Texans together like the need to reform a failed eminent domain system. Governor Perry showed tremendous leadership by placing this issue on an emergency agenda item this session of the legislature. We know with 6,000 bills and compelling needs in this state, that this needed to be a priority, and the legislature has been working in earnest to have sweeping eminent domain reform this session. Unfortunately, through a series of loopholes in the law and adverse court cases, condemning entities have been given a hammer that could be used and lorded over private property owners. This legislation will remove that hammer over the heads of private property owners and significantly advance the ball. You know, I love it when I get the opportunity to go to urban Texas where protecting private property owners' rights are not on the minds as much as our state's farmers and ranchers that I get to work with on a daily basis, and remind them, Governor, that it all starts and ends with the land. And the need to protect our home and land in Texas is essential. Last November, Texans passed Proposition 11, which put in our state's constitution some very strong provisions to protect home and landowners, and passed it with about an 81% passage rate. Passing Senate Bill 18 will put Texas where we need to be in some very critical areas. It will also require that private property owners be reimbursed for diminished access. It will require that property owners be paid for relocation costs. Texans and Americans enjoy the safest, most affordable food supply in the world, and that's thanks to our state's farmers and ranchers. We want to make certain that as we grow as a state and as we accommodate needs, that we put the rights of private property owners in the front of the process and not the back, where it is today because of adverse court cases. Governor Perry's leadership is one of the reasons why this is moving through the legislature, along with our legislative leaders that are making this happen today. And I look forward to this meaningful reforms becoming law and being signed. It'll be a great day for Texas. This wouldn't have happened without many of you in the room today who have been strong advocates for years to get this done. And we thank you all for making that happen. Many leading land steward organizations have been working on this, and we have a fellow from right here in your country today that's been a part of that, and Tom Perini, Cowboy Gourmet, who's kind of put us on the map around the world. It's always fun to stop in Buffalo Gap when you're traveling around here. And Tom Perini is a member of the Texas and Southwestern Cattle Raisers Association and has a few words about this topic as well. Tom?
Thank you.
Come on. Thank you.
Thank y'all. It's a pleasure to be here. Eminent domain. First of all, it's very hard for me to say. I have a problem rolling it off. But besides being hard to say, when you hear it, it's really bad because you know something is coming up behind you that is not good or not pleasant. Now, the nice thing about this reform, is when you put the word reform by it, now there's kind of a bright light at the end of this tunnel that might help us all. Because as you can see, you know, there are lots of people moving to Texas. But before I go further, I have been a member of Texas and Southwest Cattle Raisers for a long time. And on their behalf, we want to welcome the Governor and Commissioner here today because it's very important what we're doing. And thank you all for doing this because they've been involved in this a long time, and everything that we talk about really affects them. But as a property owner and growing up in Abilene, I have seen how Abilene has grown. In the old days, South 14th was a city limits and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And in this time period, there's been great farmland that is now has houses on it, and you understand that, but at some point, some of these things need to be kind of put into check and to see how these things are used and how water is used and how we protect that. But reform helps us protect our natural resources, which, in my opinion, is water and all of our ag and our land. And with all of these folks moving in, which I'm very proud of, and for the state of Texas, I think it's great, but we need to give them a place where they can live and have water and to make it work. So everything we do now is very, very important. We don't want to wake up in 30 years and go, oh my gosh, you know, why didn't we build lakes, or why didn't we? Or have people come in and take land over government that would, you know, put up some building or something on a piece of great agricultural land. I just don't think that's right. So we don't ever want to lose the right to be property owners. And that is really big, because if we don't watch what's happening, at someday that could happen. So I think that this reform will put the property owners on what I call a level playing field. This will give them the options of how to do things, and if it's really something that's needed, you know, I mean, I don't think anybody likes to have anything taken away from them. And especially if it's someplace that you have very dear, like where you grew up or where I live. I mean, everybody has that thing that is their deal. But by making this reform, I think that this will help us in the future. And so right now what they're doing is great. So gentlemen, once again, thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it, and thank you.